Professional chefs and butchers almost never eat ribeye at home. Not because they can't get it. They have access to the best meat on the planet. They walk right past it. Because they know something the average shopper doesn't. The cuts collecting dust at the bottom of the case are more flavorful, more forgiving, and more rewarding to cook than anything sitting behind the premium glass. Today, I'm going to show you exactly which cuts those are, how to cook them like a pro, and by the end of this video, you're going to look at a budget grocery run completely differently. Now, before we get into the cuts themselves, I want to plant a question in your head. Why does fat marbling get all the glory when connective tissue, the thing everyone's been told to avoid, is actually the secret weapon behind some of the greatest dishes ever created? Hold that thought, because the answer changes how you shop forever. Let's start with a cut that lives rent-free in every serious cook's rotation, the chuck, specifically the chuck eye steak. This comes from the shoulder of the cow, right next to where the ribeye ends. And here's the thing, the first few chuck eye steaks cut from that section are so close to ribeye in flavor and marbling that butchers have literally nicknamed it the poor man's ribeye. You're paying sometimes half the price for a steak that sits millimeters away from the cut everyone's fighting over. The fat distribution is rich, the beefy flavor is deep, and because it has a little more connective tissue threaded through it, it responds beautifully to a hard sear in a screaming hot cast iron pan with nothing but butter, garlic, and a sprig of thyme basting it as it goes. 2 to 3 minutes each side, rest it for 5, and you've got a restaurant-quality plate for a fraction of the cost. But here's the thing about connective tissue. Remember that question I planted earlier? Connective tissue is mostly collagen, and collagen, when it hits low heat over a long period of time, doesn't toughen the meat, it melts. It literally dissolves into rich, silky gelatin that coats every fiber of the meat in a way that dry-aged ribeye simply cannot replicate. That's the science behind why braised cuts are so extraordinary, and the king of that process is the beef short rib. Short ribs are a cut that sits along the lower rib cage, layered with fat, collagen, and muscle that has worked hard. That work is exactly what you want. When you braise short ribs low and slow, I'm talking 275 degrees Fahrenheit for 3.5 to 4 hours in a Dutch oven with red wine, beef stock, caramelized onions, and a few sprigs of rosemary, what comes out the other side is genuinely one of the most luxurious meat experiences you can have at a dinner table. The meat pulls apart with the lightest pressure. The braising liquid reduces into a glossy sauce that has more depth than most restaurant reductions.
This is a dish that would cost you $40 a plate in a fine dining setting. You can make it at home for the price of a fast food run. Now, here's a pattern interrupt I want to throw at you. We've been talking beef, but the same principle applies across every protein. Pork shoulder, sometimes labeled as Boston butt, is one of the most overlooked cuts at any butcher counter. It has an incredible fat cap, heavy marbling, and the right balance of muscle groups to stay moist through long cooks. Smoke it at 225 degrees for 8 to 10 hours with a dry rub of smoked paprika, brown sugar, black pepper, garlic powder, and a hit of cayenne. Pull it when it hits 203 degrees internal. Let it rest wrapped in butcher paper for at least an hour. What you get is pulled pork with a bark so dark and smoky it looks almost burnt, and an interior so tender and juicy it almost steams when you pull it apart. That's competition-level barbecue from a cut that costs almost nothing. Here's your butcher's secret for this video, and it's one that professionals guard closely. Always ask your butcher for the flat iron steak. It comes from the shoulder blade, the chuck area, and it's the second most tender cut on the entire cow after the tenderloin. Most shoppers have never heard of it. It's cut from the top blade muscle once the tough sinew running through the center is removed, and what's left is a steak with extraordinary marbling, a rich mineral flavor, and a texture that eats beautifully at medium rare. Season it hard with salt and pepper, let it sit at room temperature for 30 minutes, then sear it in a cast iron with a high smoke point oil for 2 to 3 minutes each side. Finish with whole butter, crushed garlic, and thyme basting continuously. Slice it thin against the grain and hit it with flaky sea salt. That's it. That's a $20 restaurant appetizer on a $5 cut. Now let's talk about the cut that I think is the single most undervalued piece of meat in any butcher case, the lamb neck. I know, you heard neck and you almost clicked away. Stay with me. Lamb neck is so loaded with collagen and fat that when you slow braise it, same method as short ribs, same low heat, same patience, it transforms into something almost impossibly rich and tender. Moroccan cuisine has known this for centuries. A classic tremula braised lamb neck with preserved lemon, cumin, coriander, saffron, and green olives is a dish that belongs on the finest table you've ever sat at. And the cut itself? Often the cheapest thing in the lamb section. The reason it's overlooked is pure aesthetics. It doesn't look glamorous raw, but cooked, it is extraordinary. So here's the full picture. Chuck eye for your weeknight sear. Short rib when you want to braise something that feels genuinely special. Pork shoulder when you're firing up the smoker and want a crowd moment. Flat iron when you need a quick, stunning steak that outperforms its price tag every time.
And lamb neck when you're ready to cook something that will genuinely surprise everyone at the table. The through line connecting all of these cuts is simple. Flavor comes from work. Muscles that move carry more myoglobin, more fat, more connective tissue, and all of that, with the right technique, becomes depth, richness, and the kind of complexity that a tenderloin simply cannot offer. The premium shelf sells you tenderness, the butcher's case sells you flavor, and now you know where to shop. What's the cheapest cut you've ever cooked that absolutely blew you away? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one, and I guarantee some of your answers are going to make it into a future episode. Hit subscribe so you never miss a video, and next time we're going deep on the art of dry curing, the ancient technique that transforms raw meat into something genuinely extraordinary. You're not going to want to miss it.